Have you ever wanted to be let in, Joe?
No.
All right.
Welcome to the Let Me In podcast. I always start with a question. If you were to think of your career trajectory as a story arc with a beginning, middle and end, where do you feel you are now and why?
That's such a good question. It actually depends on what day you ask me, to be honest. Sometimes I feel like I've barely begun.
Okay.
I feel like I've only done the prologue. But today I feel like I'm at the beginning of the middle is where I kind of feel like I am.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I'm entering a new chapter of my career with what I want to do. I'm trying to transition from kind of, because obviously I've mostly done soaps and stuff and TV, and I'm trying to transition a little bit into other kinds of work and challenge myself. So yeah.
Okay. If we were to sort of go back in time then to beginning of your story, what did that look like? Right at the beginning.
I started doing musical theatre when I was, how old was I? I would have been 8 when I started. And my first job was when I was 9 years old. I was in Oliver Twist at Drury Lane on the West End.
Nice.
And that was so much fun. Had the time of my life. I was making like £20 a show, but I thought I was incredibly rich. Like,
you are balling.
It's
£20
money for that age.
Yeah, for 9 years old.
I think I'd get like a quid and I'd be like,
Well, I used to be like, I think for college, my like weekly food allowance was like 20 quid.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so much.
And
Food
you
allowance.
spend it all in one day. That's what I used to do with my food.
Yeah.
would you really? At 9 years old, I don't think I could.
Well,
What would you buy?
I bought the ugliest like juicy couture necklace, like genuinely the ugly, like gold, chunky.
Yeah.
Because they were like, you're allowed to buy one big thing with your wages, and then the rest we're keeping. My parents.
Okay.
And then they were like, really? That's your choice of what to buy? And I was like,
My
yeah,
money.
I'm gonna love it forever. Cut to I wore it like twice.
What's a good way of flexing?
Like talk about myself in a very nice way.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
I'm getting onto this to Jad. So I've been saying this to Jad for a long, and then it's probably boring after words all the time. But Jad downplays himself all the time.
Yeah.
So if you ever ask like what he's doing, he's like, "Oh, I'm just like, I'm just nothing really, just."
No, I don't say like that.
Well, no, you'll say it like, "I'm just trying something."
I get really turned off by arrogance.
Yeah.
Like I think I get a bit worked up about not coming across arrogant, but to the point where I'm like, I'm a walking piece of shit.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of people in the film industry who really talk the big talk.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and they don't follow through, and it's all talk, it's no action. And yeah, I know what you mean. I have a bit of a phobia of being seen like that as well.
Do you have like a specific way that you try and come across to other people in the industry, or do you find it's just very natural when you come across it? You kind of just do yourself?
Yeah, I try and just be myself, but I do find myself sometimes in the industry. I find it a lot easier actually, because when I talk to other actors or people in the industry, they're less like, oh, so why aren't you doing anything right now?
Yeah.
You had 2 auditions last week. Where are they going? Do you know what I mean? People understand in the industry more.
Yeah.
So I find I can be myself more. But it's more when I'm talking to people not in the industry and they're like, wait, why aren't you working at the moment?
Yeah.
Or like, what about that audition you did 2 months ago? What happened with that? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I find myself having to try and justify my achievements
Existence.
and my CV.
Yeah.
And but it's a tricky one because I downplay myself a lot as well. And I'm trying to find a balance between, like not negative self-talk, but also not being deluded.
Yeah. Because were you affected quite a lot by the writer's strike as well?
Yeah, I was hugely. Like how many auditions I would get, like went down massively. I was getting like a tenth of what I would usually get.
What's an audition process look like? So is it obviously I'm assuming you got to get an audition for your agent, and then it gets sent to you. What gets sent to you? Is it quite varied? Do you always get like a monologue? Do you get like a?
So it will usually be sides like from the project. So from the script, it will be either 1 scene, 2 scenes, or 3 scenes, or sometimes you get like 4 scenes.
Yeah.
And you've got to learn it in a day and do it. And
So it's quick. It's quick
crazy.
turnaround.
It can be. Sometimes they give you. It really varies. Sometimes they'll give you a week and a half. Sometimes they'll literally like once for one thing. I got the call at like 5 p.m. and then it was due in at 10 a.m.
And you sent like a self-tape, is it?
Yeah.
And most auditions like self-tape, or do you actually go into them?
Now it's most first rounds are self-tape.
Is it?
Since
Okay.
COVID. Yeah.
So does it make sense? Like it saves like everyone's time. The whole world's gone that way, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, it's got positives and negatives.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Go
it
on
does, because I'm like for example, I would love to work with David Lynch and Fincher, because they both do 10 million takes of everything.
Okay.
And I find myself, when I do my own self-tape, I just want to go again and again and again and again. I'm a perfectionist, but you can't be like that, because there's no such thing as perfection, really.
And how much... It sounds silly. How much effort do you put into a self-tape then? Because you have like 3 a week.
Yeah.
You can't spend hours and hours and hours on them.
Yeah.
Do you have like a set, no, I'm going to do it for this amount of time? Do you have like a routine for it? Or do you just do it until you think that is...
I usually do it until I'm happy with it.
Until you're happy with
until
it.
I feel like that is how I want to... That's my interpretation of the character.
Is it a solo like journey you do it in, a solo process? Do you get anyone else involved? Do you
No, oh my God, you have to have someone to read with. That's the tricky thing about it, is finding someone to read with, because... when I was with my ex, I would just make him do it all the time. But then there are now studios where you have to pay, obviously, but you can go and get someone to read it.
Okay.
Some people do it like over
Great
FaceTime, but there's a delay, and I just find like I wish I had more of an imagination, but I really need to be as close to the situation as possible for me to create any kind of realism. I used to do them with my mum all the time, and my mum would just chuckle and be like, "Oh, I've played so many characters," and I'd be like, and then she'd read it, and she'd just be reading, "So what are we doing later?" Like, like literally. And I think from that, I learned to kind of just work with whatever you're given. Because to be fair, in a literal audition, sometimes the casting directors have seen 40 people that day. They're
bored.
Tired. They're bored. They've read this 200 times. They're like, "Okay, so how do you feel about our breakup?" Like literally reading it like that. And you have to make it work. So.
Yeah.
How do you get the feedback then? Do you get, like, I'm assuming like most actors get mostly no's and you get a few yeses.
Yeah.
Do you get told no, or they just don't reply? What's the no's like?
You just never hear from them
you
again.
Never hear back.
They ghost you.
Yeah.
There was a big movement to try and get them to like confirm like yes or no, but it kind of didn't really catch on, to be honest. Because especially with self-tapes now, it means they can see so many more people than they used to, which means they would be having to send out hundreds, sometimes thousands of yeses or nos. But yeah, feedback, that's what I struggle with, is that there's barely any feedback. And so you have to build such a self-belief in this industry, because if you don't have it, no one else is going to tell you.
No.
So
it's like relentless resilience.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of like nightmare audition experiences?
Oh, yes, I do. There was one which was actually for a commercial, but I had to, and they didn't tell me until the day, this would never happen now, but it was like a German coffee commercial, and it was like 2 girls who were like kissing, and the dad walks in and he doesn't know that she likes girls. And
this is for an advert.
This is for an advert. It was like literally, yeah.
Okay.
I was like, how is this about? And then they have a coffee together after to like show it's okay, which is where the coffee comes into it.
I'm thinking.
Then they were like, yeah, so we're gonna pair you with like 4 or 5 girls, and I was like, pair me, okay. And they're like, so you guys are gonna be kissing? So I had to kiss like 6 different girls for this commercial audition, and I didn't know I was gonna be doing it, and I was like, so like. Never kissed a girl in my life.
How old were you?
I was like 17 maybe.
That is intense. That is intense.
Yeah.
That feels a bit illegal at 17.
And no, maybe I was 18, because
Yeah.
maybe I was 18.
Okay. We'll say 18.
Let's say 18.
Like,
No, they were like, are you okay with it? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I just didn't know I was going to be doing it. Another one was when I was auditioning for Outlander. And the casting director was really great, and she wanted to kind of bring the best out in me, and I was quite nervous. It was the director of Luther, and I really liked Luther and him and his work. And she said to me, like, she was just 100% real with me, which they rarely are, and she was like, look, this feels quite like over rehearsed. It feels like you're not very in the moment because you're nervous and stuff like that. And that was scary at the time, but it was a big learning experience.
Yeah.
So that's kindness, I suppose. It comes from a place of kindness.
Yeah,
it could 100%.
Be,
like you said, it could just be like, no, I'm all right, thanks.
Yeah,
see you
exactly.
later.
I've only ever been to one audition. It's when I was like 11. I think I've told you about this.
You did recently.
It was for Run Fat Boy Run, the Simon Pegg movie.
Oh yeah.
And they were looking for like someone that looked like a combination of Simon Pegg and Thandie Newton. I basically just like, we had to do improv. So like they was in a room with like 5 boys, and they kept asking me like, why did you put the DVD in the toaster? And I just didn't know what to do, so I kept repeating the line back to them. And this man just got so angry with me. I was like, why did you put your fingers in the oven? I'd be like, why did you put your fingers in the oven? He was like, Okay, let's move on. Okay.
Yeah, next.
Yeah, your one sounds a bit more intense, to be fair.
So, you started off in musical theatre.
I did, yeah.
What next?
So I did that. Then I went to musical theatre school on a scholarship, and that was crazy.
Which musical theatre school?
It was called Sylvia Young, and I went there and then kind of studied, and we did academics 3 days a week and like singing, dancing, and acting 2 days a week.
Okay.
So it was kind of the dream in that sense, because you know, who wants to do maths every day? Not me. So yeah, then I did that. That was good. And then there was like an agency as a part of the school, so I would go up for things, but mostly would end up doing like little bits in shows. And then I left and did my A-levels, and then I did National Youth Theatre, and that's when I got my like proper big adult agent, when I did a show with them.
How did you get into National Youth Theatre? Did you get anyone join?
Yeah. So I just like applied for it, and then you do like a monologue and audition.
Yeah.
And get in. And back then, I think they take loads of people in now. Like it's much bigger, the organisation, but back then it was like much smaller. Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
And so from there then, so you're what? So you're 18 at that point, finishing A-levels, 16 to 18.
I was maybe, when I did, when I did the show with them, I was, I think, turning 19, 18, 19.
How did you always want to be a performer or an actor?
Oh my God, always. Always.
When's the first like memory of wanting to be, like, for a career now?
So there's not a specific moment. I just always, like, my mum and dad split up, and I would live with my mum, and my mum worked a lot, so I just spent so much time watching films and TV, and I just was like, I want to do that. And I kind of was always performing, always. I like begged my mum to take me to all sorts of lessons. I think I kind of always felt the power of like storytelling, and I always felt such an empathy with the people I saw on screen, and I just was always kind of imitating people, and thought I've always understood the power of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and like expressing yourself that way, I guess.
Yeah. That's quite nice though.
Did you have any initial like touch points of like films or anything that you were like, I want to do something like that? Or
so when I was a kid, I was obsessed with High School Musical, like absolutely, like
really,
like beyond, like I've probably seen those films like maybe 5,000 times.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite one? 2.
Really?
2 is 3. I think 3 is the banger.
You think 3 is a good one? Maybe it's because like that was the one that was in the cinema. I like the ones that were on the Disney Channel. I came home and I watched them.
Is there anyone specific whose career you would like to emulate, or someone's career you think is really impressive?
Yes, there is. Jessie Buckley. Do you know Jessie Buckley?
I actually don't know who that is.
So she's like incredible, and she had like a similar path to me in that she started out on the talent show. They had a talent show for who was going to play Nancy in Oliver Twist, which I was one of the kids in. Yeah. And she started out on that, auditioning for Nancy, and she didn't get it, and then she kind of became an actress, and she's done such a variety of things. She did this film called The Lost Daughter, which I don't know if you guys have seen, but it's absolutely incredible. It's got Olivia Colman, Dakota Johnson. And that's my claim to fame, actually. When I was 14, I did a radio play with Olivia Colman.
Okay.
And that's my claim to fame.
I feel like you've got a few other claim to fame.
Yeah.
But that is cool. That is cool, though.
I think just because she's won an Oscar, I feel like that is my highest achievement.
No, that's sick. Did you actually get to like properly meet her and stuff?
I did, I did. But I was 14, so back then she'd been on Peep Show and stuff like that. Yeah. But she wasn't nowhere near as big as she is now.
What made her blow up? Was it was she in The Favourite? Am I imagining
The Favourite,
yeah. Was that her big kind of...
That was what she won the Oscar for, yeah.
Yeah. She's massive now. She was in Wonka, we watched the other day.
She is. She was in The Bear.
She was in The Bear.
I loved her in The Bear.
You know the bit where his brother has a thing with the fork?
Yeah.
That is so unbelievably Joe.
Is it?
I've seen Joe have that look. Like Joe, if somebody aggravates Joe, against his better judgment, he will do something... I've seen you make the face where everyone's looking at you like, don't do what you're about to do, and you make that face that he has when he's holding the fork.
I know I resonate with that feeling, like...
You know what, weirdly about The Bear? I had a dream with Jeremy Allen White last night. We were cooking in a kitchen together, and he was just screaming at me. And I was telling him how much I liked the one take episode in the first season where they're all in the kitchen, like, cousin gets stabbed, and whatever's going on, he was like, yeah, okay, but let's cook though. And he kept like getting annoyed with me.
I understand a game. Yeah.
But
I'd love to get shouted at by him.
by Jeremy Allen White.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's, you know what, in an interview I like him because he's quite uncomfortable. I've noticed he's quite like nervous and whatever, and I think it makes him very human.
He is. I think people have that misconception about actors that like we're all extroverts and like hugely like Ryan Reynolds, like charismatic, just. But I don't think that's
Big personality.
always true.
I feel like you're quite charismatic.
Thank you.
Would you
I try to be.
Yeah. Would you describe yourself as extroverted?
You know what? I'm very much an actress in my real life as well, in terms of like I kind of play different people on different days. Sometimes.
Really? Who are you today?
Sometimes today I'm extroverted.
Okay.
Today I'm super charismatic.
Yeah.
But then some days I'll be really like, please, no one even
Speak
look
to me.
in my direction.
How extreme do you take these these parts? Do you play like a psychopath sometimes and just be like, it's gonna be me today?
Yeah, just push someone in front of the train
Yeah.
tracks. Yeah.
That would be pretty extreme, to be fair. Yeah.
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 Oh my god.
Do you
have any like tics that you notice when you watch yourself back that you didn't notice in the moment?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, that was something I really noticed, is that I never fully close my mouth.
Really?
Like, it's always, it's like I'm like a dog. Like, I was watching myself in something, and like it was Call the Midwife, and it was like after I'd just given birth, and I was talking, and then the nurse was talking to me, and I was like, why is my mouth still open? Like, it's just a tiny bit. Yeah. Maybe I should just go run with it and start doing that.
Because there's two ways that could happen. That could become like the thing you do, which like boosts your like, oh, like that's the girl who can't close her mouth.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm anxious, I always do this thing where I'm like doing this with my fingers, like fiddling with my fingers like that.
Yeah.
And I noticed it. I was watching something and I noticed that I was doing it, and I was like, no, I need to like cut that shit out.
Do you always
like,
watch what you do?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you like watching yourself?
When it's good.
So you won't know though. Do
But
you know?
sometimes I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing?
Like, did you watch Eastenders properly?
I didn't watch every episode. I did,
No.
but I watched because I was in like overall I think something like 102 episodes or something like that. Jeez. So I didn't watch every single one, but I watched the big ones. I watched most of them. Yeah.
White girl.
White girl.
Is that how you were addressing Barbara?
I thought of making that
Listen
joke.
up, white girl.
Yeah. Listen here. Right. So you come out of National Youth Theatre.
Mm-hmm.
You were in part of a short film called White Girl.
I was, yeah.
And that got nominated for BFI's Best Film.
It did, yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Because it's an indie, when it's an indie film, you feel more, less like you have to impress the producers necessarily, and more like you can experiment and take some risks. Okay. So I thought because my character was basically, the film is kind of about white feminism. And how often white feminists can use their kind of, like, for example, what the director would always tell me as an example is, you know, when a white woman in America will call the police on a black man and start crying and be like, kind of weaponizing, like, I guess the fact that nobody thinks you would ever do anything wrong, even though you would. And that's kind of what the film was about. And she was kind of sinister and seeking out people to kill. And so I thought, because I'd recently watched this thing about this teenage serial killer who wrote a diary about it, so I thought I'd like write my own diary as the character. And that was really good. And I carried it around with me with this. The film it was freezing cold. I was wearing a tiny crop top and jeans, and we were shooting in like November, and we actually got permits to like shoot on different streets in East London. So I was just walking around there, and it was actually great because the reaction, she was kind of supposed to be like this demonic presence. It was unclear whether she was possessed, whether she was real, whether she wasn't. Yeah. And the way people would respond to us when we were filming was like, it was good because it kind of elevated the fact that there was something weird about her. And so she was like seeking people out, and I took a lot of inspiration from, have you guys seen the film Morven Caller?
No.
It's a Lynn Ramsey film, and it's very, very good about Samantha Morton plays a woman who her boyfriend kills himself, and then she decides to steal his novel that he's got on his laptop. and she is kind of sinister in a similar way, and I took a lot of inspiration from that. And so yeah, that was good, and people seem to really, well, actually it divided opinion quite a lot, as horror films often do, because it's quite graphic. Like at the end when I stab the woman, I'm like getting her intestines out, I'm playing with her intestines, I'm like wiping her blood all on my body, and that often divides opinion. But I love a horror film. I liked it, and I feel like people who love horror films really loved them. So it kind of divided opinion a bit, but it was good. It was a good experience.
How did you get that role? Did you know the people making it? Is it
so actually the director and the writer, they worked on the play that I did with National Youth Theatre.
Okay.
And the writer actually said he kind of wrote it with me in mind, which was quite nice.
Yeah.
And then, but I still auditioned.
Did you play hardball? Maybe I can do it.
I'm not sure if I'm free.
I'm not sure if you can afford me.
Yeah.
Would you be paid for that, a short film?
Yes.
You are, yeah?
Yeah. So I've tried my whole career. I have done a couple of things for free, but I have tried to not do things for free because I'm quite passionate about actors being paid for their work.
Yeah.
Basically.
I'm all for this. So how would you go about it? Say someone says to you, I want you to do it. You know, it could be a friend, right? So it could get a bit personal.
Yeah.
Say a friend of yours said, I'm making this film. Or if they'd have asked you, because you know these people, to do it, could you do us a favour and do it for free?
Yeah.
How would you do it? Would you just say, no, I'm not, I'm not prepared to? Like,
I would, if to be honest, so if it was my best friend, I would probably do it.
Yeah.
I would probably do it. But I would just say, I'm at the point in my career where I want to be paid for my work.
Yeah. Well, it is work.
That's just probably what I'd
say. And they're getting things out, like they are getting things out of it.
Yeah. A collaboration is kind of different, but if they're just asking you to act in something for like...
And they have funding for it because they got BFI funding.
Exactly. Yeah. So, no, they paid me well.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, if you've got cameras, if you've got sound ops, you're paying them probably.
Yeah.
Exactly. So why would you not pay you?
And I often think the actors are the ones who are like, oh, we'll get them for free, because understandably people want to act so badly and people just want to do it.
Abuse this sort of passion.
Exactly.
Because what I noticed, so from then on, you worked in BBC a few times after that.
I did, yeah.
Did the BFI stuff support that, or is that just a coincidence?
No, that was just a coincidence, actually.
Just a coincidence,
yeah. I think my first ever TV role was in Doctors. Do you know Doctors?
I know Doctors, yeah.
When I was 19 or 20, I can't remember which. But that was my first ever TV role, and then I did the short film like after that between.
Yeah.
So I did Doctors, the short film, then Call the Midwife, then Casualty, then Eastenders.
And obviously Eastenders is the big one, because when you've obviously been the recurring actor on.
Yeah.
But you had two, you did one, you went on Eastenders once and then came back, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
So you went on the first time, was that like almost like an audition and they get you back on? Is that how it feels?
That's how it kind of felt, especially because that director from that episode, I worked with her again when we were doing that, and when I saw her, she was like, oh, I told them they had to get you back, like I've been waiting for you to come back. I'm so glad they've hired you permanently.
What was that like then? Because that's almost like that's your big break, right? That's okay, I'm going to get a permanent recurring role on one of the biggest like soaps. Is it the biggest soap in England? I imagine it sort of is.
It's close.
That and Corrie.
With Corrie, it kind of changes year to year. But
essentially one of the biggest probably TV programs of all time.
It is, yeah. Longest running.
There you go. What? Talk to me like when you found out.
Who
told you?
So that was crazy because it was during COVID, like I say, and I just had a meeting on Zoom of like they were just talking through the logistics of it and the possible storyline, and it was with the exec John Sen and Julia Crampsey, who's the head of casting at the BBC, and we were just talking through it, and I thought we were going to do some scenes. I wasn't sure, but we didn't. And then I was living with my mum at the time in quite a small flat, and so I'd kind of sent her out of the room while I did this Zoom, and she came in, she was like, how was it? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like I wasn't sure if I came across right or whatever. And she was like, look, let's go for a walk and you can shake it off. And then we got back straight away. This was like an hour later. My agent called me and was like, how do you think it went? And I was like, oh, I'm not sure.
Playing the game.
And he was like, well, it went amazing because they've offered it to you. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was just like buzzing, so excited. I was like in shock, couldn't believe it. But yeah, that kind of did feel like a life-changing moment. And it kind of was, because my life hasn't been the same since then.
Yeah, because it must help your CV, I guess. And then suddenly other roles come through from that.
It hugely helps because people just... Obviously, what it comes down to with a lot of films is money. They're spending so much money and they want to trust that you're not going to... ruin their investment, I guess.
Yeah.
And so when they've seen that you have been able to hold down something, whatever it is, for so long,
proven.
They're more likely to trust you, basically. So yeah.
So once you've been offered it, so the agent said to you, they want to get you in, you're buzzing, blah, 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 and then it comes down to contract talk?
Yes, it does.
How did that work for you? I imagine that's like your first time going in something like that.
Yeah, something that big, yeah. Luckily with my agent, he's really good at... He will always ask for more money than they originally offer.
Good.
And luckily he had another client on Eastenders and knew what he was getting paid. So he could, but that he deals with all, I read it obviously. I do actually try to read every single contract I'm given as much as I can. Obviously don't understand all of it, but that's what I took that advice from Zendaya. Actually, I watched a video of her which was like, make sure you read every single contract that you ever get given.
Thank you, Zendaya.
And I was like, thanks Zendaya, I love you. So read that, but he deals with most of it and he kind of explains it, and he kind of does that for me.
But I imagine you have the final say.
Yes.
You go, that's enough, that's not enough, I want more.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
How confident did you feel going into that? Because the first time, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I was so like, oh, take whatever they give me. But my agent was the one who was... that's what I imagine you will be like. Yeah. Because
And how long do you sign that contract for? Like, is it like a 6 month
So yes,
deal?
the initial was 6 months, with an option for a year. So an option is like, if they like
if they want to, you continue.
Then they keep you on.
Very much like a football contract.
You have to, type of thing. I obviously wanted to, but like the option is on their end rather than yours. So so it started out 6 months and then they extended it to a year. And then they extended it for another, not quite 6 months, just under after that. My character went to uni. So, and that was always the plan from the beginning. I knew it was never going to be that was always the plan from the beginning. I knew
that's one question I was going to ask. Was like, leaving it, because obviously like people get killed off all the time and it's done. You think, oh God, lads. Yours, to be fair, you could go back. Yeah, you went to uni and could come back.
Yeah.
But when they remove you from it, how does that work? Like, how much of a notice do you get? Is there a conversation about it? Can you sort of plead your case like, nah, please keep me in?
There is a conversation. Yeah. I think it's different because I kind of knew from the beginning that they told temporary. In that meeting that I just told you about, they told me the general arc of the storyline, and that
so they know it a lot ahead of time.
Yeah. Fair play. And the new exec came in, and the new exec can come in and kind of change it, but not hugely, because obviously that would completely fuck up the entire schedule. So there was a conversation, and because I kind of knew from the beginning that she was going to go to uni, I was just like, okay, thanks, it's been wonderful, and I'll see you later. Because
a lot of when I read like articles on you, again on my massive research, they sort of try to suggest that when the new producer Chris Flensor comes in, 4 characters left and you're one of them. So it wasn't like he came in and went, no, she's got to go.
I actually found that really difficult. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say like, it was like so many headlines like, she's been axed. She's been got rid of, the new exec doesn't like her, blah, blah, blah. And I was like reading this stuff and I was like, wait. And I called the head, because there's a head of press at BBC and at EastEnders who talks to you and talks you through this stuff. And I was like, wait, are they allowed to do this when it's like not true? And she was like, absolutely. They are allowed to do it, unfortunately. And that's what I found kind of difficult, was everyone having this idea that I'd been like fired because they didn't like me.
Because they're trying to paint a picture, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because obviously, again, when you look you up, being a young female actress, suddenly it now famous, or known at least. You can imagine the articles, because it's mental to me, like the idea that they were just taking like the Daily Mail, the Express, OK, or whoever it was. They're just taking like anything you put up on Instagram or anything you put socially up, and then they were just write absolutely the most boring thing around it. But obviously the photo is the main thing. Like, oh my God, look at her being a real person. And that's basically it. And I think some of the comments, and you look up who's writing anything. That's exactly what I thought you looked like.
Middle-aged man.
Middle-aged white man.
Literally.
How did you find that? Because it was quite a lot.
Yeah, it was. And I was quite naive to it at first. That's what I really wasn't. I've spent so long training and trying to be an actress, but I'd never really thought about this like I'm using quotation marks, celebrity version of it before. And so I was very naive at first, and I would read the comments on these articles, and I quickly learned not to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's just some of the worst stuff you've ever read in your life.
Well, we found it rough reading it this morning. Like,
Yeah.
like some of them, like even when I even know you that well, I was like, fucking hell, I want to read this about Bob.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Because I think you just don't. So that when you're reading those things, unless you know the person, they don't seem like a real person. If that makes like when you're reading, so you can just some of these cretins, like the things they wrote, like I actually thought
thought out, like
the comments actually weren't as bad. They're terrible, but like actually I thought the person writing the article was worse because they know exactly what they're doing. They pick certain photos, they know what they're going to get a reaction from.
Yeah.
They don't say it, but they suggest certain things in the content, like you're in like a swimsuit or something like that, and they won't say anything too bad.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, oh, like in a sizzling swimsuit, blah, 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 and that's the main photo at the top of it, and then they'll write like a little bit of nonsense about like the Eastenders role, which no one's reading. The whole story is just about, oh my god, you posted a picture on Instagram which doesn't collide with your character's personality. And I just thought, cheers, mate, cheers. I don't remember the guy's name, but I'll name and shame him later.
That I did have to rethink because I've been used to just using social media like however I wanted to use it, like to show my friends where I was or to post thirst traps sometimes, you know. Yeah. Or do you know what I mean? And I kind of had to rethink after that how I use it a little bit.
Did you? Did you change how you
I
used it?
did, because anything you put on there is public domain, so they can use whatever they want, and it's like out of like you don't know how it's going to be used or talked about or like and there was a whole thing as well where they tried to make out that me and the guy who played Bobby Beale, my boyfriend on the show, they tried to make out that we were dating in real life, and perhaps would genuinely hide in bushes and jump out and take pictures of us when we were walking together.
So weird.
And things like that.
Do you not want to have a go at them?
You know what? In the moment, I'd never been papped in my bloody life. I was so shocked. I was like stunned to say anything.
We had a discussion with my brother's episode where like I feel like I'd pull out. I feel like if I was someone who was like Hollywood famous, you know, like all the time.
Yeah.
I would get like a carpenter's hammer, which is like a real little hammer. It's not like a big thing; it's a little thing, very precise. You know, it's like just touching things up. And I would use that, and I would just go smashing lenses.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd miss annoying things. It's not. I mean, it probably isn't.
There's a picture online of Keanu Reeves. He stole like a paparazzi.
Yeah, all day. That's exactly what I would do. I mean, I'd probably
steal the camera.
As I said, I'd probably get to a lot of lawsuits, but like I feel like if I was a Hollywood. If I'm in that level, I'm probably can afford it. So
yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. I had like the teeniest taste of it, and I was like, "This is a lot." So I can't imagine how someone like.
When it first happened, did you like it? You were like, "Oh my god, look out! Like I've made it."
It made me feel like I'd achieved something that people would even care to pay attention to who I'm dating or whatever it was. But then it got a bit like it actually started to. And I had to work on this, affect my self-belief in terms of like, I was like, I wish people would pay attention more to my acting. When people would approach me, they'd always be like, oh, I saw you in this picture and you were dating this. And I'd be like, so what's your favourite scene from the show or whatever? And they'd be like, they couldn't name it. And I kind of wanted it to be more about the acting. Yeah. And I wanted people to tell me I was a great actress rather than, you know.
You look good with this guy
Exactly.
So in terms of the acting then, you touched on it there. So acting in a soap must be very different to acting in a short film or a period piece, for example.
It's hugely different.
People probably belittle it a little bit.
They do, yeah.
What do you feel about that?
I actually feel quite passionately about it because on a soap, it's really like you're learning, like I think at my most, I was learning like 50 pages of dialogue in a week. And you get 3 takes max on most scenes, and you've got to bring everything you can to it, you know? And I feel like the actors on EastEnders, you know, myself included, we really try and care about it so much and do such a good job. And I feel like it's looked down on wrongly. Yeah. And I get that soap operas are really not everyone's cup of tea. 100%, I understand that. It's very larger than life. Yeah, in every
like it is a different. It feels like a different way of acting.
It is, and it's closer to theatre.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
that's what it feels like. It feels like theatre on TV.
It's closer to how you'd act on stage because it's multi-camera. And because, so multi-camera, for people who don't know, is so you'll be filming the wide shots, the close-up and the mid-shot on 3 different cameras at once.
Okay.
Which means that, so on a big movie, for example, you do the close-up and the wide separately. So in the wide, the actor might adopt a bigger physicality so that you can see on the wide what they're doing. Whereas in the close-up, they tone it down. Because it's all about the eyes and seeing into that internal world.
Yeah, your facial expressions.
Whereas when you're doing it all at once, you can't do that so much, which is why I often think that people on EastEnders are overacting, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you watch, because of that, you basically act as if you're always on the close-up? Or you're always...
That's what I would do sometimes, but I think other people act as if they're always on the wide.
Always on the wide. Okay, yeah. Do you overact? Because like EastEnders is known for like the final scene, like, in that moment, and like it's really like aggressively acting in your face. Do you think that's why people do you overact? Are you told to do that? Is that just what happens?
No, I think it's just what happens, and I think it's more like the phrase overacting is like interesting to me when people use it, because I think it's more like what you've got to think is, so when I came to the show, I was like, how can I convincingly be a part of this world? And to do that, you have to match other people's energy, right? And all the characters on EastEnders are like larger than life characters. So it's more about playing someone, and you meet people in real life who are like extravagant and ridiculous and over the top. And so it's more about playing that rather than anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
People get typecast into EastEnders, and they or in soaps. Those who've been there a long time, I don't feel like they sort of branch out and do something too many of them branch out and do something else. Do you think that's because people don't think they can act?
I think so, yeah. And I feel like
they go into theatre, I think, don't they?
Yeah, a lot of soap actors do go into theatre, and I think a lot of soap actors do have a thing where they're like, I want to prove I can really act, because no one believes it. But the truth is that acting is not just about the performance you give on the day. Acting can be changed by editing. It can be changed by the music, the soundtrack, the sound in the background, by the director. You know, I had one time on EastEnders where a director we had different ideas about how to play something, and I mean, ultimately, depending on who you ask, some actors will be like, fuck the director, I just want to do my own thing. But I kind of believe in a collaboration. And so I was like, I'm going to compromise and, you know. But there's so many things that go into a performance, is my point. And whereas the general public, because it's the person they can see on the screen, they think it's all on you.
Yeah. What would be your, if you could do anything, what would be your dream role, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I'd love to play Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. That's a big one. But I feel like I haven't read my dream role yet. I'd love to play the lead in a horror film because I love horror and I'm obsessed with horror.
Yeah. I watched the new Evil Dead recently.
I watched it too.
Horror wouldn't be my go-to, but I think it's good, like in the same way if you watch a drama or something, like at the end, if you feel a bit of like emotional catharsis, I feel like horror kind of brings out I don't know, it's like a different kind of catharsis.
It is, and it's something so far from yourself and anything you've experienced in your life. And that's, I guess, what I'd want to play is I want to really challenge myself to play. I want to play a real life person, like a history figure or like maybe a singer. I would love to play Lana Del Rey in a biopic.
Really? What draws you to that?
I just love her music and her energy, and I feel like she's quite far from me. That's what I want to do. I want to play someone with an accent completely different from my own, a vibe completely different from my own, a physicality completely different from my own, and then also someone like Pennywise, like a cartoon,
not even like a
character.
alien.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Is it more screen you want to do then, rather than theatre acting?
I don't know. I like both. I get more auditions for screen stuff than I do for a play. I'd love to do a play. Like ever since COVID, I've been dying to get in front of an audience again. But I get more screen stuff, and I think that's because I haven't been to drama school.
Okay. I've got a recurring question now because it was off the bat the first couple of times, but I quite like it. What role could you see Joe doing?
Ooh.
Joe nailing.
Acting role or like just like role in a film?
Acting role.
What could I see?
Because I always think you've got a bit of a Wahlberg thing going on.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that.
Yeah?
I would actually agree with that. But I can also see you being like a Jack Black vibe too.
Don't know what's worse. I'd rather... I like
the
Jack
funny
Black.
friend in a rom-com.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, you could be the funny friend.
Yeah, we all know what you mean, but that's fine.
The Bill Hader role where it's like you're there for exposition. He else has his joke where he's like, he only has that part. He's the friend at the start of the film that goes like, "You're gonna do what?" and he just fucks off for the rest of the film.
My one-liner. Yeah, I don't know. People, I never get a good answer for that. I never get a good answer for what job people think I do.
It's actually true. You get violated a little bit.
Yeah, I do. Chloe on episode, I don't know, it was 4 or 5, when he works at Radio Jackie, she thought I looked like I work in a fish factory.
I don't know.
Wait, why can I kind of see that?
Well, it was that, and then it was policeman,
Policeman setting up. I look like I could set up a fire festival.
You look like the kind of guy that would do fire festival.
Do fire festival. That's a violation.
I don't know what
That
it
is
is.
a big violation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a recruiter, worst one.
The recruiter's the worst one.
Recruiter's the worst, and our mate's a recruiter, and I mean this, by the way.
Our best friend is a recruiter.
Yeah, one of my best mates is a recruiter, and it's the worst thing about him. But good guy other than that. But yeah, that was the worst one. I think I give off like I'd work in the city. I feel like I could work in the city, but like I just don't know. I don't think I could. But I think I give vibes like I could be like a finance bro.
You could play a finance bro.
I could play a finance bro.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
God, you've got a wide range of jobs
I could basically I could do it all. Let's be other than the fact that I can't act, I think I could do it all.
At the end of the season, we should put together all the things people have said you can play.
Yeah.
You should
Fish
do fake
Factory.
auditions for each one.
Yeah, no, you actually should.
Fish Factory, I was just like, I don't know, like I don't think I'd go towards that for anybody though.
Well, you asked her why, and she said you look like you would just be really
Slap
good at
fish.
slapping fish down all day.
And wearing a hairnet. I can see you in a hairnet.
Because your hair is shit.
Mean.
Or actually, like, I could see you like a sous chef.
Okay.
That's better.
I can cook.
That's the best one that you've had.
Yeah, actually, I think that's quite a nice one.
Yeah.
In the Bear. That'd be
Like,
my dream
getting
role.
shouted at, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Or like Boiling Point. Have you guys seen Boiling Point?
Love
Yeah,
Boiling
that's a
Point.
good one.
Yeah.
No, I'd actually love to be in the Bear. That would be like my dream. If I could be Kami's sous chef,
Yeah.
that's my dream role. So if any of the people involved in that listening, I'll do that for free. I won't adopt you. I won't adopt your. Well, I'm not going to do a good job.
Yeah, no, I'm actually going to change my philosophy. I'd be in the Bear for free too.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. No. I know I wouldn't do a good job at it. So like, it would be costing them money to like viewership would just decline massively.
You'd have to actually learn to be a chef because I think Jeremy Allen White actually learned to...
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I actually can't cook. I never cook. Ever.
I cook for
I cook like two. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
For some. Yeah. No, you cook two times a week, something like that.
3.
Yeah. And
What'd
then
you
work.
make?
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, I made...
You're good at breakfast, actually. That's
I
your
am good at
specialty.
breakfast.
I don't think you rarely make
I've
like.
never heard anyone being good at breakfast.
No, that's
I'm
because
good at
you don't actually ever
Random.
cook dinner.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Well, yesterday I made... It was
No,
bagels.
Yeah, that's breakfast. I cooked dinner yesterday.
It was like... Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
see, I
I made bagels with eggs, avocado, rocket... Can't remember what else I put.
Chili jam.
Chili jam. Yeah, that was...
Yeah.
It was a bit of an experiment. Mozzarella.
good. That was good.
What else was on it? I can't... It was okay.
I think that was it. No, I
it was a
liked
bit like... Yeah, that was a bit
That's
experimental.
a classic jam.
I think
though.
it sounds good.
Eggs and avocado basically is always in there,
Yeah.
and then you sort of flirt around with everything else.
Yeah.
That's your specialty. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can learn to cook. I'm sure it can't be that hard to learn to cook. Okay.
Do you follow
Stir
recipes
fry.
or do you just kind of freestyle?
freestyle.
I'm too lazy.
You good?
That's what I do though, but then it ends up tasting whack.
There was one time where I decided I needed to get better at cooking, or I needed to be a good chef, because my dad one time made me a curry and it tasted of cigarettes. That's actually true. I don't know how he did it. Like, I actually don't know how he accomplished
Does he
it.
smoke?
Nope. There was no cigarettes in the production.
In the
But, like,
production.
I was thinking, did some tobacco like fall in?
Yeah.
No,
just
but like I ate
chipping
it and
it
I was
in.
like, it actually tastes just exactly like cigarettes. And then he made a spicy meatball spaghetti once that was so spicy that it was like inedible. And I was like, I can't be like 45 and like this.
I've done that exact same thing.
Really?
No, yeah, I just
I
don't
made
stop
my
it.
mum a pasta so spicy she was literally crying.
Damn.
Anyway, so you've left EastEnders. Life
I
post
have.
EastEnders.
Yeah.
What does that look like, and what do you want it to look like going forward?
Oh, good question. So at the moment, I'm like auditioning. I did a film, a horror comedy, which was really fun because, like we were talking about kind of before, I've been not typecast, but given opportunities a lot to play kind of East End, quite young, quite naive, giggly girls. This was the first character I played, which was kind of like she actually knew what she was doing. And
Okay.
she was the one who was going to come up with the plans to save everyone.
Nice.
Active protagonist.
Exactly.
An active protagonist.
New word for you. New phrase for you, Joe.
I'm going to edit this to make it sound like I said it. That's why I said it then.
Yeah. Like that guy who repeats someone's joke, but a
Yeah,
bit
but
louder.
I'm the editor,
and
so it
everyone
doesn't matter. Yeah. So, like an active protagonist.
Yeah, that's crazy
Wow,
you
I
would
didn't
say
know
that.
you-
I've
I
never
didn't
heard anyone else say that before.
Just been learning.
Definitely not me.
Been
Just now.
Just been reading.
Active protagonist.
Good phrase.
Yeah. Not like, I think as a woman you can get a lot of like, oh, I like this guy and blah blah blah, or what are we gonna do? You know, a lot of that type of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this
yeah.
wasn't that which I liked.
Good.
That's it.
But yeah, I'm just auditioning. What I would really like to do is I'd like to kind of direct, star and write something. That's like my big goal. And I would like it to be about grief, because I've had my own experiences with that. And yeah, I think that's what I'd like to do. But I just really want to be, like I said to you before, playing lots of different types of people, putting myself in lots of different shoes. And
the reality of acting. So obviously, since you've left, you actually work now at Albie's Pizza.
I do.
The name is Albie's Pizza
Yeah.
Pizzeria.
That's right.
And you work, and it worked with Jad basically in the same.
That's how we met.
That's how you two met. Yeah. Do you find that hard going from working on EastEnders to now out of work and auditioning, but having to do another job, people recognising you in that job?
Yeah.
How's that been?
It's, to be honest, it's actually one of the hardest bits of being an actor. I do like promo, like temp stuff as well, like brand ambassador stuff, where you like hand out samples of stuff.
Yeah.
And so many times I'll get people recognise me and be like, oh my gosh, can I have a picture? Like, you were great, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll be like, so what are you doing here? And they'll say
That's judgmental,
as if like,
oh no,
they've witnessed the
Demise.
Destruction of my life.
Yeah.
And I do find that quite difficult.
Does it happen at Albie's?
No, it's never happened at Albie's actually. It
Good.
mostly happens when I'm like more public facing, like on the street handing stuff out.
Yeah.
And like giving out leaflets and stuff like that. But also Albie's is kind of in an area where there's lots of what would you call them?
Hipsters.
Yes,
No.
that's a nice word. I was going to say yuppies, but
Yeah, I would call them hipsters.
What, at Mother Kelly's?
At Mother Kelly's, yeah.
lots
Albie's
of
is located-
professionals in suits and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Shiny.
I was going to say, yeah, corporate bastards.
Albie's is located.
Corporate, exactly. And I feel like a lot of them don't watch the stuff I've been in.
Yeah, Albie's is located within Mother Kelly's.
I
Yes.
just get repeatedly told I look like Pete Davidson.
Yeah,
Fucking awful.
which you love.
No, I
you
really
love it.
don't.
You put it on your own Instagram saying, "Look, it's me."
Not true.
You used to love it. I think you moved on.
You're better looking than Pete Davidson. I've never
Yeah,
understood.
but
the Pete
he's going
Davidson.
out with a bit.
This has been the most chaotic podcast we've done.
I'm going to attribute it to myself.
Yeah, you're just
You've
very
been
easy
a
to
good
chat to,
guest.
very calm. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
today. How can people find your work, find you? Obviously, they can watch EastEnders.
They can watch EastEnders.
Yeah.
BBC iPlayer, guys. I make money on residuals, so
There you go.
keep watching.
Keep watching it. Yeah, keep streaming.
Yeah, on my Instagram at Barbara Jones Smith _ Barbara Jones Smith.
There you go. Follow her.
Yeah, and just doing that really.
Yeah.
Yeah. My film. I got to promote
Yeah,
my
it's all
film. For God's sake, it's coming out next year on Amazon Prime at Halloween, roughly. We'll see if there's going to be a cinema release or not.
And the name is?
And the name is bloody hell, Members Club. It's called Members Club. I play Daisy. It's going to be really funny.
You haven't actually named it
Is
yet. I was
gonna-
waiting.
there going to be a big premiere for that as well?
Yes, there will be.
Cool.
There will be.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for that, guys.
We'll come along if we can.
DM me
be
what I
around.
should wear. Oh, don't do that, actually. Sorry. Please don't do that.
Right, well, thank you very much today.
you.
It was brilliant, good fun.
That was really fun. Yeah, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Cheers.